And we are live. So, what are we, let me just adjust this a little bit. I have a couple of different adjustments that I use. What is that? Oh, that's, okay, the camera's got to be adjusted over a little bit. There we go. Just a little bit more there. Now that looks better. That's more the way I was having it framed. So we're going to talk about the Final Cut Pro Global Summit and Apple presentation. And I have some things to say about that. But we also have some comments here. Richard didn't go live yesterday after noon, so I'm thinking it's either no updates or it's so great he just can't talk about it. I would say that's probably pretty accurate. Something's happening, but we're going to talk about what I can talk about. Are you excited about yesterday's presentation? I'm going to wait before I answer that. Good morning, Richard. 4:15 p.m. here. Was up late last night watching the WebEx. Good morning, Richard, from Garrett. So, not sure what I can say. So listen. Anybody that was there at the Apple presentation last night, you cannot supposed to talk about the actual presentation, so I don't expect you to. If you start saying anything about the presentation, I'll have to knock you off the channel. But having said that, I'm going to talk generally about how I feel about the presentation. Good afternoon from Belgium. Absolutely, Belgium. That's fantastic. Erwin is there. So we have some things to talk about. So Apple did a presentation. They did two presentations actually yesterday. Hi, Richard from Quebec. Dennis from Quebec. Thank you for tuning in today. We got a lot of people watching. For the new people that are tuned in, this is Final Cut Pro Radio HQ's backyard. This is my backyard cam. Usually I have this set up. We watch the bird feeder. It's like 39 degrees Fahrenheit, 43 degrees Fahrenheit this morning, which is the normal temperature for that time of the year. Jason says, that is a nice guitar in the background. Do you play? Jason, that's not only a nice guitar, that is a 69 Strat. A 69 Stratocaster. That's my baby. Yes, I've been playing since I've been a kid, for a long time, since I've been a teenager. So, absolutely. That's the one that I wrote most of my music on, then I continue to write and continue to play. Good morning from the North Shore of Lake Ontario. How many of you went to the summit and saw the presentation? Let me know. I know there's a few that have seen it, but most of you have not. So we're going to go through exactly what was going on there at the presentation. Weesum. Jason Williams says, Weesum. Awesome. He meant awesome. That's what he meant. I said, Weesum. What is that? Is that more than one of you? Weesum. So Apple, all of the presentations at the global Final Cut Pro Global Creative Summit have been on Zoom. Apple chose not to use Zoom because it's not secure enough for them in the way they do things, their security. So they did a WebEx, which I believe is Cisco. Hi there, +1 from Belgium. Why all the big secrecy about the presentation? There's no secrecy about it. The deal is that they tell you from the beginning, this is only for the attendees of the Creative Summit. It's not for the general public. It wasn't recorded. It's not for the general public. If you pay to go to the presentation, they tell you right from the beginning, this is only for the attendees of the Creative Summit. It's one of the reasons you go there. So it's not a matter of secrecy per se. It's a matter of you abide by what the rules were in order for you to watch the summit. So I'm going to abide by those. Hi, Richard. Good morning. Didn't go to the summit this year. Can you tell if they showed actual new features in Final Cut Pro? I can't tell you. Watch what I'm going to be talking about next. I can't say directly what they showed, but I think you'll get an idea of what was going on at the summit and what I feel about it in the next segment here. Hi from sunny Fortaleza, Brazil. How y'all doing? So we have a record amount of people here today. Let me just, so people know, let me see, there we go. There's my desk. To people that aren't familiar, we got some new people today. We got 56 people watching live. Keyboard, here's my audio interface. This is my switcher, water, of course, and coffee. That's what I was making. That's why I was a minute or two late. And my coffee. So we have some comments. Art Aldrich, I was not aware of any NDA from yesterday. Did I say there was an NDA? I don't recall saying there was an NDA. Garrett says he's seen it. Good afternoon from Norway. What rules? Never saw any rules. You didn't see any rules, but if you paid attention, they told you from the beginning. Do not discuss. This is not for the public. This is for the attendees of the Creative Summit. That's what they told you from the beginning, and that was implied that you're supposed to agree to that. There was nothing showed that was not already public knowledge. I'm not going to respond to that. Master of building suspense. I am going to remove people that talk about anything that was contained in the Creative Summit because they told you not. It's not for the general public. It's for the attendees of the Creative Summit. So no recording was allowed. No audio recording was allowed. No screenshots were supposed to be taken, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, let's get into it here. Where is my... Oh, here we go. So the Final Cut Pro team, Apple, I call it the FCPro video team, did a presentation at the FCPX Global Summit yesterday. It was a private presentation meant for the attendees of the Global Summit. That's exactly what they told you at the beginning. It's not for public consumption, and it's also not to be discussed. The contents will not be discussed, not be recorded, not to be audio recording, not to have any screen grabs. But I can tell you this, that they officially dropped the X or 10, whichever you prefer, whatever you used to say from the Final Cut Pro, but we already knew that. This is what I have to say about it. Remember when we had beige Macs? Do you remember that? This is here. Let's do this. It was kind of like that. Like when we had beige Macs. Final Cut Pro is in the same place before the presentation as after. So here's the deal. 10.4.9 was a good feature update. 10.4.10 was a bug fix update. 10.5 was a minor update mainly for Apple Silicon Macs. So that's 3 updates in 3 months. When was the last time we had 3 updates in 3 months for Final Cut Pro? I can't remember any time that we've had that. I believe that is a record for the Final Cut Pro team. 3 updates in 3 months. Absolutely it was. They deserve a congratulations for that, for having 3 updates in 3 months. 10.4.9, 10.4.10, and 10.4.5. I mean 10.5. Let me just bring this up real quick. Getting a URL. If I could spell, it would help. So this is one of the things that I am going to keep updating. Final Cut Pro Radio has an update clock. Final Cut Pro 10.4 is 34 plus months old, but it's got a shot of adrenaline with 10.4.9. Countdown continues as 10.5 was a minor update. I'm not going to stop the update clock. The clock is going to keep on ticking. The update is going to keep on ticking. So we got lots of comments here. I think they're making up for lost time, I think. Final Cut Pro 7 had 3 updates and a lifetime of nothing until 10.0. It had a lifetime. I liked Final Cut Pro 7. I was expecting 10.5 to have been much more impactful and groundbreaking than it was. 10.5 could have been a point update, absolutely. 10.5 was also a double update, ARM and Intel, but it was a tiny, tiny double update. Yes, it was ARM and Intel, but it was just a little teeny update. It wasn't much, but the point is, let's give the team credit where they deserve credit. They deserve credit for having 3 updates in 3 months. Don't you agree with that? That's a record as far as I know. Marcelo says, the hashtag FCP will be harder to track online. FCPX was unique, hardly mistaken. I'd say you keep using FCPX. That's what I would say to that. Eric Emmerich says, about the Apple presentation, I won't get fooled again. And I bet you will get fooled again, Eric. I bet you will. I wouldn't say I was fooled about the presentation at all. My expectations were moderate. Michael Wright says, right before they put the X in that Final Cut Pro, dropped Final Cut Pro Studio, started tuning Final Cut Pro Motion and compressor to be optimized for Intel Deja Vu. So let's get back to this. Where is the slideshow? Final Cut Pro 10 was huge. Sure, 10.5 was disappointing, but folks, it is year end. The team is a bit tired. Do you think the Final Cut Pro team watch your update tracker, and are you hoping it will help them be a bit more timely? The update tracker is for us. It's for us. We're going to go over a few things. I certainly give the Final Cut Pro team my opinion on a regular basis, and I use the feedback form to do that. They know who I am, and I'm certainly going to give them my feedback on the current situation. Once again, 3 updates in 3 months is a record as far as I can remember. I've never remember 3 updates in 3 months before. August, September, November. So October, November, September, October, November, 3 months we've had 3 updates to Final Cut Pro. 2 of them are minor, 10.5 was mostly for the M1 chip, I understand. And Eric says, you're probably right. I will get fooled again, dang it. Well, here's the thing. I've learned to moderate my expectations with these things. Last year, no update. (2016) 10.2 to 10.3 updated around the Global Summit, Creative Summit. 2017, 10.3 to 10.4. 1 year, there was an update from 10.3 to 10.4. Was previewed at the Creative Summit in 2017. It didn't come out at the Creative Summit, but it was previewed, worldwide preview at the Creative Summit. It came out in December of that year. 14 months between 10.3 and 10.4. 2018, 10.4.4 was debuted around the Creative Summit. Once again, it was a worldwide debut of 10.4.4 at the Creative Summit. 2019, zip, nothing. They were just showed us 10.4.7, which was already months old at that point. There was nothing new at the Creative Summit. So let's go back, continue. Hi, everybody, and thanks for this live. One of the 3 updates was a bug fix of the first, of course. 10.4.9 was a big update, and I even questioned when 10.4.9 came out because it had so many features, especially the proxy workflow. I said, this seems like it should have been in 10.5, but they put it in 10.4.9. So they're kind of like getting numbers juxtaposed, it seems like, compared to normal. I'm going to give them a little break on this 10.5 thing because it's not a full number update. I mean, it is a full point update, but it's not the full feature update that we've been accustomed to, that the Final Cut Pro team has accustomed us to for the last 9 years. When you get a full point update, you have major feature. They didn't do that this time. Okay, we are always eager for novelty, but remember that what makes Final Cut Pro great, metadata, magnetic timeline, was already there since the beginning. But Marcello, you have to look at what Resolve 17 is doing. It's leaps and bounds giving more features than Final Cut Pro. The Final Cut Pro, Final Cut Pro 10.4 is almost 3 years old. It's not just a couple of months old, it's almost 3 years old. So yes, we have these great features, magnetic timeline, metadata. Other NLEs have great features too. So I'm not cutting them any slack on the fact that it's almost 3 years old. I would have been keen to see Apple utilizing more AI in future updates like Adobe with Adobe Sensei. Let's see what's coming up in 10.5.1 or 10.6, whatever they have. So if new features come only 1 year from now, what we already have is great, especially if are in a new M1 Mac. I hope we get features before 1 year from now. I hope we get features in the next update, 10.5.1. I hope 10.5.1 is the feature update we were expecting for 10.5. Unless they jump it to 10.6 the way Logic did. Logic went from 10.5.1 to 10.6. 10.5 was released in the middle of May last year, right at the height of the pandemic. The Logic team brought out Logic 10.5, a major update. 10.5.1 came out 30 days later. 6 months later, 10.6 came out. They completely jumped right through 10.5 and gave us 10.6. My guesstimate is that we'll see 5 updates in 5 months. That would be fantastic. If we saw 5 updates in 5 months, that would be fantastic. But I'm saying they've given us 3 in 3 months. Let's see what they've got up their sleeves. That's what I have to say. Let's see what they have up their sleeves. I have a feeling we're going to be seeing some more updates, 10.5.1, which will be the feature update if they don't go to 10.6. So once again, 3 updates in 3 months. I believe that is a record for the Final Cut Pro team. They deserve congratulations for that. They absolutely do. That is good pace. I hope they can keep up. Absolutely. However, I am not resetting the 10.5 countdown clock over at FCPRadio.com, which is right here. This countdown clock is going to continue until we get a full feature update, no matter what the name is. It seems like the name is what's changed. 2 years, 11 months, 6 days. Until we get a full feature updated version of Final Cut Pro, which we should expect because that's what they've done for the last 9 years. And there's 3 years and counting for Final Cut Pro 10.4. On the other hand, 3 updates in 3 months is great. On the other hand, you've taken 3 years and gave us this update is 10.5. So you have 2 sides to the coin there. It's very strange what they're doing. I presume it's just a naming thing that they did 10.5 to catch up with Silicon. Let's see what updates comes over the next few months. That's what I have to say. I think that will be a good barometer of where Final Cut Pro is heading. Do let the Final Cut Pro team know how they are doing. Okay? Do let them know how they are doing. So here's how you do that. Here's how you do that. Go to FCPX.tv. Right there, send your request, bug reports, feedback to the Final Cut Pro team here. Right there on the main page, FCPX.tv. If you get to raz.tv, just add HTTPS. It has to be secure. Click on that link and fill this out. Feedback type. Enhancement request, concern, if you want to do concern. Type all your stuff in there. And type your ideas in there and then send it away. You don't have to fill out these bottom things, just the top things. FCPX.tv is also available from the Final Cut Pro application. It's also available on whatever. We have some more questions here. Michael Wright says, Devil Advocates here. What if 10.6 is Apple Silicon only? That's not going to happen, Michael. That is not going to happen for a while. 2 years, Tim Cook has said they're updating the Mac OS for years to come with Apple for Intel Macs. Years to come. The majority of Final Cut Pro editors are going to be on Intel Macs for years. 2 years from now, we'll look at that. 2 years from now, we'll look at that. Not now, not in the foreseeable future. I think that would be unrealistic at this point. For me, I'm thinking that Apple might find a way to make buying Logic more attractive with the send to command maybe. Remember, Justine, that Logic is not a post-production audio application. It's a music creation, producing application. Apple's made that quite clear with the updates recently. I've reset my expectations. I don't expect it to be a post-production audio like perhaps Pro Tools is. Marcelo says, I've heard sometimes that FCPX would have a 10-year cycle. Do you believe we might be seeing Final Cut Pro 11 in 2021? That is a naming convention that could happen at some point. They didn't say that Final Cut Pro is limited to a 10-year cycle. What they said is we have a 10-year roadmap for Final Cut Pro 10 at its launch, a 10-year roadmap. But that roadmap has had plenty of twists and turns, as you know. So it could be Final Cut Pro 11. That doesn't really affect what I think can happen. It could be 10.6. It could be 10.5.1. So I think we'll soon have a 10.5.1 version of Final Cut Pro 10. No mention of iPhone 12 and compatible device export pop-up. Could you talk to the Final Cut Pro team Apple the presentation? If so, was the situation mentioned or questions asked? 10.4.3 being 3 years old, 10.5 almost without any new features. Once again, go here. This is how you talk to the Final Cut Pro team. They listen, they read all the comments here. If you have a comment about Final Cut Pro 10.5 or 10.4.10 or the Apple presentation, Send it here. Send it here. Send it here. The information's right in here. You can type whatever you want. Let me type some more. Look how fast I can type. Type it in there. Send the feedback. They read everything. This is where I'm sending feedback. Once again, you can get it over at fcpx.tv on the main page. Send your request, bug reports, or feedback to the Final Cut Pro team here. The link is here. The link is also in the Final Cut Pro app itself. So send them feedback there. That's where they get their feedback. Garrett says, from December the 2nd, I will spend a lot of time to figure out the Motion VFX plugin M-Tracker 3D combined with Final Cut Pro and the latest motion update. Absolutely. Michael Wright says, I hope you're right, but I don't trust Tim Cook. Here's what I have to say about Tim Cook, Michael, which is probably beneficial. I don't think he knows what Final Cut Pro is. So it's off his radar. So let's hope that's the case. Thanks, was not sure about Logic. If a proxy library can be sent via iCloud Drive, should get some interface updates for that. I agree. That's a great point, Tim. That's great. Listen, the fact, okay, we didn't see any, you haven't seen any update to Final Cut Pro, right? Around the summit, in the App Store, you haven't seen any update to Final Cut Pro. Do you think, realistically, that they gave us 3 updates in 3 months, and that's it? Do you think they're saying, we've done enough. We've done enough. We don't have to do any more. We'll find out with the next update. I don't think it'll be a bug fix. It could be a bug fix. They could have those out pretty quick. I think it just, doesn't it feel like something big's coming? If something big's not coming, then I'm going to probably go to Resolve 17, to be honest. I mean, this is ridiculous, 3 years, but let's hang in there a little bit longer. That's what I have to say. I guess they've now set the precedent that full point updates don't mean big features and that minor updates can carry big features. Minor point updates have always had big features. 10.4.4 had big features. 10.4.9 had big features. That's always been the case. However, full point updates, 10 point something, has always been major. Once again, I think this is just a naming convention fluke. It's not an actual whatever. Now, if they jump to 10.6, then we're back on track with a new feature update. The new feature update. Then we're back on track again. They have to be working on something for these last 3 years. They're not just the updates they've given us, the other things, don't you think? With these incredible speeds from Apple Silicon, I think editors are going to grab M1, M2 hardware at a fast rate, plus they're cheap. Are they that much cheaper? I'm not going to enter, they call the M1 the entry-level Macs. I'm not going to buy an entry-level Mac, a consumer Mac for my work. I've always bought the mid to upper level Macs, my Mac Pro, and the iMac I had was like a mid-level one, but I didn't feel like buying an iMac Pro at the time. The Apple Silicon is a different thing than the Final Cut Pro team. The Final Cut Pro team should be developing for Intel and Apple Silicon pretty much parallel. Yes, Apple Silicon will be faster for a comparable device. Of course. Why would they update if it's not faster? That's just common sense. But the feature set should remain feature parity between Intel and between the Silicon for the time being. That obviously could change going forward as the M1 takes over from the Intel. But they said they're starting a 2-year roadmap when they introduced the first M1 chip at the Mac event. So 2 years will be 2022 before we see the M1, the M2, the M Pro version for the Apple Mac Pro. Logic is production that you can use in post. Keeping post in mind, Logic is mighty useful. It does have an option, open video, yes, but it's not described that way by Apple. It's described as music production. My expectations were reset when 10.5 didn't have the things that post-production people need. Yes, I edit all my Final Cut Pro Radio podcasts in Logic. Logic is a much more robust app than Final Cut Pro. It's very complex. It's been around longer than Final Cut Pro 10. It's a great application. I really, really like Logic Pro 10, but it's basically 90% dedicated towards music production. Now, if you score your stuff, your film with it, that's fine. Too bad 10.5 isn't in the drop down. Come on, guys, let's check that out. That's interesting. I haven't checked it recently. Let's go here, FCPX.tv, click over here, FCPX team, and let's see, which version of Final Cut Pro are you using? Look, 10.5 is not even there. They don't want you to comment on 10.5. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? But listen, like I said, we're going to cut them some slack. 3 updates in 3 months is pretty darn good. Listen, there's got to be a big feature update on the way. Who doesn't think there is? There's got to be one. Hopefully it's sooner rather than later. I don't want to see it a year from now. I want to see it this year or early 2021, whatever. I don't know why they can't come out and say, hey, we got it. 10.5 is mostly about Apple Silicon with some bug fixes. The big update's coming. They've told us that before. The big update's coming. Early 2021, spring of 2021 or something. That'll be your big feature update. Their focus is Apple Silicon. Apple's focus is Apple Silicon. The Final Cut Pro team's focus is Final Cut Pro. The majority of Final Cut Pro editors are going to be on Intel Macs for years to come. The majority are going to be on Intel. They're not focused on Apple Silicon. They probably have a team that's working with the Apple Silicon team that's working on that. But I doubt their focus should be on Final Cut Pro, not Apple Silicon. They're not this Apple Silicon team. They're the Final Cut Pro team. I repeat, in the 3 updates of Final Cut Pro, 1 was a bug fix. Not 1, 2. 10.5 was also a bug fix. It had more bug fix items than feature items. So it also was a bug fix. So 2 of them were. That's not the point. The point is 3 updates. I didn't say 3 feature updates. I did 3 updates. Are we getting hung up on naming conventions? It's what the Apple team has done up to this point. For 9 years, they had as a point update, 10.1, 10.2, 10.3, 10.4. 9 years, they've given us features on the major point updates. 10.5, no, they didn't do it. So they gave us 9 years of convention, and the 10.5 didn't have it. But I'm thinking that's a naming thing. I'm thinking they wanted to start Apple Silicon with a brand new version. And they aren't quite ready for big feature updates. I expect a roles-based mixer in the big feature update. That's one of the things I expect. I absolutely expect that they finally cracked that and it'll be there. Yes, Logic is music production. They build computing appliances, designing and optimizing their OS and apps for Apple Silicon appliances. No user serviceable or upgradable hardware components. Yes, that's true. That's true. One thing missing at the summit is what, Garrett? What's one thing missing? If you watch the 2019 summit, there was no update around the 2019 summit. The 3 summits before that, there were updates. The very first summit, I was not there, but from what I understand, they previewed roles at the very first summit, which was months before it came out. So the first 4 summits, once again, they showed us something. 2019, no update. 2020, so far there's no update around the summit. Could there be an update? Of course there can. maybe we'll see that big feature update alongside the M2 Pro machines. I don't want to wait for the Pro machines. The Pro machines are 2 years out. The Final Cut Pro team and the M2 machines, separate teams. One does one does the other. I want the Final Cut Pro team to concentrate on Final Cut Pro. Of course, they optimize them for the M2 machines. Why wouldn't the Silicon Macs be so much better than the Intel? Why would Apple switch if they weren't a lot better? I just think they told us where they are going in the presentation. I was disappointed. You certainly have the right to be disappointed. I think a lot of people perhaps were. But they didn't show us where they were going. We didn't see where anything was going. We just saw the same stuff that's already pretty much out there, right? They might have shown us something, a little bit of something, but let's see what the next update was going to be. They need to do something or say what's coming with the series update to the cut page and resolve. Personal hope from me is more logic. Audio-driven storytelling is something I always focus on. Audio plays a role just if not more than visual. I think that's true, but I think logic is going to... Okay, here is the definitive answer about a big feature update coming, which I've been talking about. Here you go. Ronnie Cortens, I'm pretty sure there's a big feature update on the way. That's not coming from me, even though I've been saying that all along. Pretty sure there's a big feature update on the way. Some features take a lot more time to implement than we would expect. Okay? This is what I'm saying. These 3 updates in 3 months, I don't think they're stopping at 3 updates in 3 months. Thank you, Ronnie, for that. I appreciate it, for chiming in there. They could have allowed us to ask questions in the presentation. That's not really... They don't do that at presentations. They haven't so far at the Creative Summit. Okay, that's in person. In person, they came to see us in person, and they allowed us to ask questions. I'm going to take a sip of coffee real quick. So I think we've got Final Cut Pro. Let me turn this off, turn this on. I think we've got a big update coming from Final Cut Pro. I absolutely. 3 updates in 3 months. I have to give them credit for that. The presentation, the no update around the Creative Summit for the 3rd time in a row. Although 10.5, if you want to call that an update, I mean, it was an update, but it wasn't a big feature update like they've done in the past. That came out the week before. Could have allowed, yeah, well, I'm not sure what you're referring to there, Eric. Oh, they could have allowed us to ask questions in the presentation. Apple's never done that. The team's never allowed questions during the presentation. We have 2 events. We have a presentation, and then they come back and talk to us at the Juniper Hotel. I rely on Final Cut Pro Motion and Logic. Final Cut Pro is my baby, first NLE, and the only one I use. Though I've had some experience with other or nothing compares to Final Cut Pro. I think Logic is I think that Resolve is a great NLE. I think it's a fantastic NLE. All the NLEs are good. Avid, Premiere, maybe not so much. Just a joke. And Final Cut Pro has things that I just have a hard time when I go to another NLE. I miss them. So Final Cut Pro, but Logic has that deal right now where you get the speed editor, the hardware device. Like this, it has a box with a bunch of custom buttons and stuff. You get the box for $300 and you get a copy of Resolve 17 Studio for free. So that's very cool. Will we be seeing an audio revamp like we saw for Color Tools in 10.4? That would be my guess for the next update. I absolutely think that audio is going to be a big part of the update, and I think there's going to be whatever a roles-based mixer is. I think that's one of the things we're going to see. Whatever they've done to create that, that's what we're going to see. When it's coming, I don't know. I mean, I'm presuming if we don't see it in 2020, it'd be a nice present that we'll see it in 2021, hopefully the first half, the first quarter, whatever. That's my hope. Let me show you my screen, by the way. I have a big screen. Nathan McAvoy says, I'm excited about the audio updates to come, given that these M1 chips are already showing some very impressive results, like allowing 90 to 100 track Logic playbacks on a fanless MacBook Air. Here's what I'm watching right now. This is my screen. Look how big this screen is. It's what is it? I forget how big it is. 37, 36, something. And it's a 21:9 aspect ratio. I really like this, especially for long timelines. It's one of my favorites. Maybe we get constant audio waveform redraws with the Apple chips. We'll get performance increased. For sure. Got to laugh out of this. Have you secured Resolve Radio TV domain yet? No, I'm not going to be doing that. I'm not going to be doing any Resolve stuff. There's experts out there that are fantastic to Resolve. I do not like compare and contrast unless it's English composition. Even though apples and oranges are both peeled, it is done in different ways. You know, I think I have the wrong glasses on. That's why I'm having problems reading. Let me see if my glasses are the right ones. Well, that's better. I had the wrong glasses on. So I have one pair for driving and being outside for distance, and then these pair are what they call computer glasses, which are for watching the computer screen. I hope there might be a tighter integration with Logic and Final Cut Pro in the future. Dolby Atmos, I think, will be a focus, which is a feature missing from Logic. But once again, the feature set of Logic is really geared toward music production. You know, when 10.5 came out and now 10.6, there's really, everything is music, music, music. You can do, I do any serious audio in Logic for sure, because Final Cut Pro is not a DAW. Logic is the Pro Tools digital performer. Their DAW is dedicated to digital audio. So everyone, keep your eye out in the Final Cut Pro App Store. We didn't get an update around the Creative Summit. We got 10.5 last week, if you consider that. And for some people, that might be fine. Do those have blue blocker lenses? Been debating getting some for the computer. The lenses look much better on the pair you just put on. Do they look better? Oh, these are anti-reflective. Maybe that's what you're talking about. I didn't even see that. Soundtrack Pro 11. I've been talking about that for a while. I liked Soundtrack Pro, but I didn't like the horizontal volume sliders. I dislike them immensely. I got to have vertical volume sliders. Something that Final Cut Pro doesn't have of master volume control yet. So I think one of the big things is going to be audio improvements. Plus, listen, other things. Plus things as we go forward with the silicon chips. That right? I'm excited about silicon chips, but I'm not going to get an entry-level Mac for it. I don't care how fast they are. I don't need it. I got a Mac Pro. They're not replacing the Mac Pro anytime soon. Maybe in 2022, sometime in 2022. And even then, this one's fine. I don't know if I'll get another Mac Pro in 2 years, but I might in 3 or 4 years. We'll see. I'll get the 16-inch MacBook Pro when that's updated. So what do you think? What do you think? I wanted to come on here and talk about this because I said I would. So here's what I talked about. The presentation. I'm going to give the Final Cut Pro team feedback on the presentation. I hope you do as well. People that saw it. But once again, you can go to fcpx.tv and get the feedback form right on the main page. It's right here, right on the main page. Click there. You go to Final Cut Pro feedback. It's also available in the Apple help menu, I think, or preferences somewhere. One of the drop-down menus you can get here. Send them feedback. Let's type some feedback. I've gotten some feedback from lots of people over the last 24 hours. Send them feedback. Now, here's the thing. Be professional about it. Be professional. Talk to them the same way you would like to be talked to. I'm curious to see if they let us upgrade the existing Mac Pros with the Apple chips at some point. I think the motherboard is probably going to be different. I don't think that's going to work. However, I'm wondering if we will be able to add new Intel chips to these Mac Pros because they're just socketed now. They're not soldered in, they're just socketed. I may get a Mini as a transitional piece till more Pro hardware surfaces. That's probably something reasonable to do. If you want to experiment with the M1, what the Minis are like less than $1,000. So that's true. But I don't, listen, I got a Mac Pro. I got a 16-core Mac Pro. Right now I'm using, how much RAM? I'm using 40 gigabytes of RAM right now. I got 81 gigabytes left, and I'm using 40. The Silicon Macs only have 16 gigabytes at this point, so. The key is plugins. Are they Big Sur M1 compatible? Absolutely. Plugins are a big deal, but I guess that's up to the plugin manufacturers, right? I think it is. All right, everyone, I think I'm going to head out of here. It's 10:03. The Creative Summit's going to have a coffee hour if you're over there. I've joined a few of those over the years. Let me just show you one more thing over here. Let me see if this is going to work. So let me pull this up. Here you go. This is my mixing engine. This is my mixing engine with my audio interface. I have a compressor, I have a channel strip over there with some EQ and stuff. This is where my sound comes from. This is UA audio. Based on this hardware box. This is why I like this box a lot. It's got preamps, of course, but these software plugins run real time out of this box. This box has processors in it that processes the software audio plugins themselves, not the computer. That's why it's near zero latency. When you talk about DaVinci, you seem more excited than Final Cut. Well, at this point, DaVinci is, the innovation that DaVinci Resolve is doing is through the roof. I mean, they had 17 came out, and then 17.1 came out a week later, a couple days later. I like Final Cut Pro, but having two NLEs, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm due for an update and was about to buy a 16-inch MacBook Pro, but given these results, I may get a M1 machine, save my money, and wait for a 16-inch Apple chip. Good plan. I think that's a good plan. Simeon, you're worried about what? Didn't I just tell you that the big update for Final Cut Pro has to be on the way? Let's give it a little more time, that's all. Jason says, thank you. Thanks for bringing us the news. That's the news. The news is we don't see any update to Final Cut Pro around this summit. It's the second year in a row. Disappointing, but Look at those sexy buttons and knobs. I miss the feel of an SSL and real outboard gear sometimes, or watching Neve flying faders dance. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love hardware. I love 100 millimeter faders for doing audio. I have a big 32 channel board downstairs, analog board that I use in my studio. So, do we have anything special? I think we're just about out of the deal for today. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If anything, once again, I'm the only one reporting on this as far as I know. I wanted to come on since I said I would yesterday. We came on yesterday and we talked about a pre-summit. Today I come on to talk about the summit. The summit itself is great. I mean, the Future Media Conferences people, they have conferences today. They have conferences all day Saturday. They have conferences all day, sessions all day Sunday. All kinds of good stuff coming up. So if you bought your ticket, there's plenty more to go. The Apple presentation is separate from that. So the conferences themselves are fantastic. All right, everyone, I think I'm going to head out of here. I thank everybody for tuning in. If you don't have any more questions, if you have a few more questions, I'll hang around for a minute. That's my mute button that I sometimes forget to turn off. I turn it off when I'm taking a drink. There. Final Cut Pro Radio HQ in the backyard. Nathan says, thanks for the chat, Richard. Have a good day. Absolutely. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. FCPRadio.com. The best way to be notified. I always say this. Let me just pull this up. Let me pull this up. Here we go. YouTube.com, Richard Taylor TV. That's the best way, right? Don't forget, subscribe. Go over there and subscribe. That's the best way to be notified when I go live. YouTube.com, Richard Taylor TV. That's the best place. Then whenever I go live, you'll be notified instantly. And I can go live. Any breaking news, I'll be coming back live. Thanks, Richard. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate every single one of you tuning in today. It makes it very enjoyable when you come on here and chat like today.